So, okay, let's just get right into it. So, recognizing the problem. So, I already started kind of explaining, like, how I realized, like, that, something was wrong and things like that. Um, what types of, like, signs did you see that, like, okay, she is going down a different path? Like, that switch around the time when, like, I had Yesenia and.
When you had Yesenia, I mean, I started noticing, like, you weren't feeling, because when you had first got sick, that's when I started noticing, like, you weren't being yourself. When you had the infection, you ended up in the hospital. I was like, you didn't even want to go to the hospital. You didn't want to get checked. Like, you didn't, I don't know, it was just really weird considering, like, how serious it was. And then after that, after you got home, it was still like, I don't even know how to explain it. It was just like you weren't yourself. And I was just like, okay, she's a new mom. Like, she's adjusting to motherhood. She's trying to figure out, like, her flow, whatever. But you definitely detached yourself. And again, I just equated it to you being a new mom and, like, asserting yourself in motherhood and maybe needing to detach a little bit from me. But you detached from me. And then, like, when I would be around, you were trying to go out. You were like, when we had conversations, you were just telling me, like, oh, I'm not happy. I don't know what's wrong. You couldn't find happiness. You seemed like you were really struggling. And again, I'm just like, okay, she's trying to adjust. Like, I didn't realize the severity of it, but it was definitely a lot of signs. But I think a lot of signs that most people would just overlook because it's also the same things that kind of happen naturally when you adjust to a very new situation. But yours were really extreme. I mean, like, you were wilding for real.
Yeah, no. I really was. Like, I was just telling them about how, like, I did the big move to Florida, and I was just, like, telling.
That is huge. Yeah, like, impulse moves. That's a great example because not only just that, but, like, I knew you guys had discussed it, but then all of a sudden you literally he quit his job, and then y'all just moved. And I wasn't even, I said, before y'all do anything, like, let me come and say goodbye, see the baby and everything. You were it was in the middle of the night. You were texting me from, like, Ohio or Kentucky or something. And I was like, you left? Like, you literally just left in the middle of the night. You didn't even let me say bye or anything. Like, I was devastated.
Yeah.
I cried. And then a couple weeks later, I bought me and your brothers, all three of us got a ticket to go to Florida to see you for your birthday and spend Halloween and your birthday down there with you and the baby and everything. And before we took the trip, you came back to Michigan. So we ended up taking that trip and going down there because I asked the boys, like, do y'all still want to go, even though she's not there, and maybe we can just find something to do? So they were like, yeah. So we ended up just going to Florida anyways, even though you had decided to come back to Michigan impulsively again.
I don't even remember the coming back part. Kind of a little bit. I mean, because, like, part of me really was still trying to hold on to the relationship. I did not know why I was feeling the way that I was feeling, but I knew that I had to act on it. Like, I had to make moves that, as impulsive as they were, I had to do it. So, me going to Florida, I just left to Florida, packed up, and I even told him, my daughter's dad, I was like, I don't guarantee that we're gonna be together, but if you want to come, you can come. And
y'all were definitely fighting on a level that y'all had never fought before.
For sure. And I think that even being over in Florida, it messed him up a lot because, he was by himself and stuff, and, like, so.
Yeah, he was struggling too. And I didn't recognize either one of y'all at that time, honestly. Y'all were both wilding.
A little bit. So, yeah. So, how did we, like, address the issue? Was there any, like, you have to remind me because a lot of it, like, I need some type of reminder. I don't remember too much. Like, I couldn't just talk about it off the top of my head. But did we ever have, like, an initial conversation, like, when, after, like, fast forward, I'm using, like, was there any initial conversation, like that confronted the situation?
It wasn't really a conversation, and that's where, like, I feel like my, I don't know, emotional unintelligence comes in, is because at the time, people were calling me, like, family, friends, and people who were close to us were calling me like, "Oh, Jazz is wild, and Jazz did this, Jazz did that." Like, just calling me, telling me stuff, and I got frustrated to like the point where it was like the third person that called me, and I was like, "She is a grown ass woman. Like, what do you want me to do?" Like, I cussed them out. I was like, everyone is calling me, telling me what she's doing. Like, I'm about to like ground her or something, as if I had any control over her. She's grown. I don't know what you want from me. It was just so frustrating because I feel like I raised you the way that I wanted you to grow up to be. You know what I'm saying? And then you were like taking a 90-degree turn, and I didn't know how to get you back on track, and I was so frustrated. And I was frustrated that people were looking at me like, "Well, do something." You know?
Like,
and so
me being addicted, like, could you have ever seen that coming? Because you knew I was going down some type of path, but did you see that?
You wouldn't even take Tylenol. You wouldn't even take pain medication when you had Yessie. Like, no, because you didn't even like take a medicine when you actually needed it, and you didn't want to go to the doctor. You were so anxious about everything. Like, and plus you had seen everything I had gone through with my childhood best friend when she was going through her addiction, and I was trying to save her. I just like, I was scared of a million things, you know, that could happen with you growing up, and addiction was not one of them. It just never even occurred because, like, for what? Like, I never did that stuff around y'all. You know what I'm saying? Even though, like, you knew what I went through, y'all never knew my childhood best friend like that. So, like, y'all knew what I was going through. Y'all seen me worried about her, crying about her, trying to save her, but y'all never seen her in that active state. Y'all never know, you know what I'm saying? Like, understood. So it's not like you were around it. It was not like you saw me getting high or getting drunk or getting this or getting that.
Yeah, like, that's the thing is, like, it's so crazy because I was not around that. I didn't know anything about it at all. Like, it's not something I was around, raised around, heard about, like, nothing. And I feel like that is partially why it was so easy to just go into it, because like, I didn't know the actual consequences, the long-term consequences. I didn't know that there was any at all, you know? So me going into it, I'm thinking like I'm just doing it for fun, just passing time. I remember I would go and turn my phone off for days at a time and just, you know, whatever.
The next thing is you going MIA and not talking. We talk every single day. So, like, when you would turn your phone off or you would go MIA or you want to contact me, I would be like, what's going on? Like, something's up.
And I'm over here just like, I'm fine. I'm just, you know, taking a break from social media and my phone and stuff. And like, yes, that was true. But also, I was having my fun. But like, I didn't see it as that big of a deal. I seen it as like I was just disconnecting from social media and the world and was just having fun, like doing you know. And then it just so quickly turned into, you know, the serious consequence.
Yeah, and I think like when I first back to your original question about like how did we approach it initially, like I think I just started questioning you, like, what's going on with you? Why are these people calling me? Are you, like, I was like, I said mean things to you. I don't even know if I want to repeat them. I remember them. But
say them.
No, like I was like, are you a fucking crackhead? Like, what are you doing? like I did. I was just like, and I said it like, I wasn't serious, but I was like, I wanted to make it sound as bad as it does when you say, are you a fucking crackhead? Like, I wanted it to sound bad. So if you were thinking about it, you would be like, oh yeah, that sounds bad. I don't want to do it. You're like, I wanted to scare you out of going any further down that road, if that makes sense. So I almost thought I could like bully you out of it. And I did. I would try to be mean to you about it. Like,
yeah, that was definitely your approach starting off. Was like, she was just like, I don't know. She was very mean about it.
I recently was cleaning out my phone to try to make, you know, space storage or whatever. And I found a video from your early addiction when you were at my house and me and you had got into it and we were recording each other. And I was being like so mean to you, and you kind of deserved it, but maybe like I could have approached it differently. But I was embarrassed at myself with how I was talking to you. Like, I was really cutting into you, but I really at that time felt like nothing I could say was working. Like, you were so oppositional, you were so defiant, you were so mean, you were so detached from reality that it was like, no matter what I say, like, what can I say to shock you? What can I say to get your attention? What can I say to bring you back to reality? And nothing was working.
Yeah, I think, yeah, that's what it did to me too, is like completely detached from reality. I didn't have any emotion, so like I couldn't really express myself how I wanted to. And then I remember I used to tell you, like, no, I'm still me. Like, even though I'm doing all this stuff and whatever, and it doesn't seem like it, I'm still me. My feelings are still valid. Like, I still feel the ways that I feel, and blah, blah, blah. And like, what I meant by that is like I really was the me I am right now, like, at least inside, that was me, but I couldn't express it because I was on drugs. So like I could not.
And see, that used to scare me when you said that, because then I was like, if this is you, I don't like you.
Yeah.
And how do I not like my daughter? Like, I love my daughter, but I do not like you.
Yeah. Yeah. So I probably wasn't saying it right, but yeah. So like, do you feel like how did you know this last time, like when I was, starting to recover and stuff, like I know people would, tell you you're enabling and stuff, like how did you know that it was a difference between enabling and supporting? Like, what was that difference for you, and how did you know that like now was the time to, apply it?
Well, I don't think that it was a difference, honestly, and I don't think I knew that this was the time. Like, I feel like there's two parts to that. So number one is the difference between supporting and enabling is boundaries. And I had to assert my boundaries. I had to figure out early on, like, what am I willing to do? How far am I willing to go? What am I willing to accept? What am I willing to risk? And then I lay my boundaries. And anything outside of that boundary is enabling. Right. And that's kind of how I dealt with that. As far as, like, how I knew this was the time, anytime, I told you this a million times, and every time, but anytime you're trying, I'm there. Like, if it's not sincere, then we'll learn and we'll keep it moving. You know what I'm saying? But if you say you're ready, okay, I'm gonna be there. I never know if it's the time, but I'm never gonna turn you down.
Okay.
I'm never gonna say, like, go figure it out on your own this time or whatever. Like, I'll be there, but as soon as you show me you're not for real, okay, well then there's a boundary. Bye. Like, go now. You go figure it out on your own.
So what would that look like to you?
What?
Like I guess an example of what crossing the boundary. What boundaries do you have set up now in place? Especially because I am so far in my recovery, not so far, but further than I ever have been. What would a boundary look like now?
So now, I'm funny with money. Has always been a thing, and money always is a thing with people struggling with addiction. So, before I would never give you money. Like, if he was like, I need to eat, I'd be like, I'll get you some food, but I would never just be like, oh, here's money. So now, because, we work together and there's like money exchange for this reason and that reason or whatever, like, I'm more open to that now, but I'm also always aware. And if I find out, that money is not being used for what it's supposed to be, then okay, now you're back to, if you're hungry, I'll get you some food, but I'm not giving you no money type of thing. Mm-hmm. So it's just like, you earn your trust back, you earn these privileges back, you earn this freedom back. And if you mess it up, it's like being a kid, like, okay, now you've lost it again. Now we go back to the drawing board. It doesn't mean you're never going to have it again. It means you have to re-earn it.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like you're getting a lot of these freedoms and privileges back, and this trust back, but it's still not 100%. And I'm still always, I hope one day it goes away because it's exhausting, but I still am always aware and always like spidey is tingling, and right. I freak out still, like the other day, like if I be having feelings sometimes, and I'm like, if you don't answer the phone or something, I'm like, I will drive up there right after I go, and I just like immediately go to 100.
No, but I get it though, because I know, like, What's crazy is you were so consistent. Like I'm talking about, I mastered going MIA, and there wasn't a day that went by that she wasn't. I love you, checking in. Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? Even with no responses back. And then I can only imagine like how excited or how like you know just whatever that you got when you got a response, and then as soon as you would respond back to that response, I was already MIA again.
Yeah, that was hard. And that made me like, you know what though? But honestly, everything that we went through, it really helped me to grow as a human. And it really helped me to just be a better person and deal with all relationships differently, with like friends, family, romantic relationships, everything, because you have really tested my ability to take my ego out of things, love unconditionally, like all of these things, because it takes a lot of pride swallowing to text somebody every single day without a response. Like, it takes, because I got a lot of ego, so I'm like, you don't text me back, I ain't talking to you until you do. So, like, for me to text you every single day, and I had to talk to myself, like, it's your kid, like, you love her, just tell her you love, whatever. But, yeah, so all that made me, it just really helped me grow, but it was the hardest part because it felt like for a visual, a little kid waiting for their daddy to pick them up after school, and they're on the porch with their backpacks and they're ready to go, and then they just sit there and then it goes dark and daddy never comes, kind of thing. Like, that was me. Like, I was like all excited and ready to like talk to you, or all excited and ready for you to come over, or all excited and ready for whatever we talked about, and then you go MIA, and I'm just like sitting there and I'm like, dang, like she sounded so normal. And I was like a little kid. Like, you took me back to childhood so many times with the defeat that I felt, and just feeling like I'm completely out of control of something, and nothing I can say or do changes it. And you can't make somebody love you, and you can't make somebody care. And it was just like, it really took me back. But because I was back there, it forced me to like figure out how to live through that.
Yeah. So.
But it also made me realize that I never ever want Yessie or Ilana to feel that way, and outside IU. So like, that's why I'm so protective of them, because that is the worst pain I think I've ever felt. And there's no way I ever want them to ever experience with that. Like, for them to be like, oh, mommy's coming to my birthday party, and then you don't show up because you're hired. Like, no, I can never see them experience that.
Yeah. I think we've definitely come a long way in our relationship. Like, I used to think for a minute that, even in recovery, or like when I first started off, like I just never thought that our relationship would ever be as solid as it was. I remember I used to say, like, as much as you want your daughter back, I want my mom back. And I said that from a place coming from like, I mean, I've been absent for so long that I don't even know you, and I didn't know you anymore. So like, I just wanted the mom I remembered when it was like, just us, and we were so close and everything. And like, you were just this whole new person. It was hard to like just grasp a hold of. It's hard to come out of addiction and just jump into recovery, because it's like jumping into jumping from one world to a whole different world. That's exactly what it's like. So it's like, because your growth gets stunted in a sense, mentally, physically, and just emotionally. So like, I was one place before addiction and had my relationships, however, and whatever. And then I was in addiction, completely distanced from all those relationships and anything like family, whatever. And then you jump into recovery, and now you have to not only build and mend relationships with all the bridges burned and all these things, but you have to learn all these people all over again, on top of learning yourself. And
how is that coming, like, and not even just me, but how is it for you to be like, you're seeing your daughters now and they've grown so much and they're different babies, and your mom is a different person, and your brother has a deep voice now?
That's what I'm saying. It's crazy. It's really hard because like, my big thing was struggling with my reality that was already a problem before drugs. And so doing drugs obviously completely altered my whole reality in every sense. And then coming out of addiction and then into recovery and having to like see my brothers tall. Both of my brothers are taller than me, and they both have these deep voices, and my daughters are like whole people now. Like they talk and have full conversation. They like, it's just insane. The last time I had seen Elena was like, what, she was like, I mean, you gotta think about it. I got her taken away, what, like 2 months?
Yeah, she wasn't even 2 months. I think she was like 3 weeks.
So she was just, a little baby, and then seeing her at visits, but then that gap between after I got my rights terminated and then not seeing her for however long, like it was just, that time period was so hard because I made the decision every day not to accept reality every single day because of all that, because I knew I was missing out on so much, and because all of time was just moving without me. I refused to accept reality, and that's when the drugs came in, because that's what would take me away from the reality. So that was my easiest escape, and that's why it had such a strong hold on me, because that was my only way out of not having to like accept what was really going on. Like, your rights are being terminated, your relationships are being destroyed, and I hate to blame it on postpartum, and I don't think that's the only reason. I think a lot of it is underlying mental stuff as well that have never been treated, talked about, looked into, nothing. But on top of postpartum hitting and me not getting treated for postpartum and then having another baby couple years later, and then doing the same thing, not getting treated for postpartum, completely affected my thought process. Like, it had just affected my decision making, my thought process, my wants and needs, and all of that. So, but yeah, so back to your question though, yeah, it's hard even to this day. Like, my oldest is 6 years old. I don't feel like I have a 6-year-old. When people ask me my age, I still say 22. I still say 22 on accident. Like, that's the first that comes out of my mouth, because I don't feel like
I still feel 27.
But like, I don't feel like I'm 24. I missed out on I don't know how many birthdays already. I didn't celebrate the past however many birthdays because I was using. I wasn't with family. I didn't celebrate my birthdays like I normally would. So to me, it never happened. Like, that's my way of thinking, because it's so hard to like, really realize, like, yeah, you're 24 and all this time has gone by, and and so it's really sad. So even, it definitely makes me appreciate all the holidays more. The little time I do get to see my oldest, like, and then the days I get to have my middle child, I have like a very special way that like I look at Elena, because I'm like, all of them. I mean, because Yesenia was my first, but then Elena, I'm just like, there was something about you that like you were supposed to still be in my life. Like, you were this close to, I was never going to see you again, but there's just something that like you belong in my life, aside from being my daughter. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's why it's so special to me. She is.
I have a question. I don't know how real you want to get about Elena, about your pregnancy and everything.
Let's go.
So you didn't get a baby shower for Elena. We didn't celebrate. We didn't, no gender, like it was nothing, because you were not planning on keeping her,
right? Okay, yeah. And I forgot about this. Yeah. So this is crazy. My best friend actually, and I were talking about it, and then she suggested like, oh, I think because her mom does stuff with like community mental health type of stuff, and I guess she knows somebody that wanted a baby. And this sounds crazy. I wanted to. We ended up meeting somewhere out to eat, and Hold on. It's okay, moms. Yeah. So we ended up meeting somewhere out to eat, and I was trying to basically they were trying to, I don't even know how to put it. Like, it sounds so bad. Basically, they were trying to like buy her. Like, they said they would pay for all my medical stuff for during the pregnancy, that they can't have kids because of this, and this reason, and that they would pay me this much money. And I was all for it at first, and only because my daughter's dad at the time, before he went to prison, he went to jail for 8 months, which was most of my pregnancy. He got out literally like not even a month before I had her. So at that point, I was like not ready in any way, shape, or form. Like, just not in any position to be having a baby. But in the middle of the conversations, like I was just like, I can't do this. This feels so wrong. And I just can't do it. But like, that still didn't explain, like, okay, then what am I gonna do? Because I really there was just no.
And you were using, and you overdosed while you were pregnant with her.
I did overdose my first time overdosing, but it was off of cocaine. So if you don't think that you can overdose off of cocaine, you definitely can. But I was pregnant with her, and I used cocaine, but at that point I was trying to kill myself. I remember me and one of my friends, we were like arguing and stuff, and I was just over life at this point. So I remember I stole his bag, and then I left the car and went walking. It was like late at night, and I went behind a building, and I just sat there and cried and cried and cried, and then I stared at the bag, and I was like, screw it, rolled up a dollar bill, and up both noses, like, sniffed as hard as I could. My nose started bleeding. I stood up, couldn't walk straight, so I like dragged myself out to the road so that somebody would see me. And coincidentally, he came pulling up like at the same time, and I had been behind the building for at least an hour and a half. Coincidentally pulled up at the same time I was walking out, and as soon as I sat in the car, I completely went out. Yeah. So that's crazy. I forgot about that.
There was another time you overdosed too while you were pregnant, because I was in Atlanta and they called me, and it wasn't that time, I don't think. You were in a bathtub or something?
That was that time.
It was that time?
Mm-hmm. I remember, like, right before I went out, I was telling them, I was like, don't take me to the hospital, because at the time I had custody of my oldest daughter. And she was with me and him part-time, but she was with me. So
she wasn't with you that night?
No, not that night, no. But like, I mean, I had her, like. Yeah. And I remember that, like, before I went out, I was like, don't take me to the hospital because they'll take my kids away. And that's all I remember. And then I remember waking up in the bathtub, and they were like, had the cold water on me and everything, and splashed me with cold water, trying to like force feed me baby applesauce. And yeah, so there's things that, like, I like looking back, and I think this is for everybody, like, once you get to a certain point, like in your recovery, like, I will never ever be able to comprehend why I did the things that I did, but I couldn't tell you, if I could go back knowing what I know now, yes, I would do stuff differently. If I just went back in time, I would probably do it the same again, because I don't know what. Because I don't know what I know. Because I don't know what I know now. If I was still feeling the ways that I was feeling, like that night, I really wanted to kill myself, to the point where I sat and thought about it for at least an hour and a half, until I finally was like, okay, this is the only way out. And like, and that was before I even had her, and before the postpartum even hit. So it was just like,
But you were still doing postpartum from Yessie.
Right. And the thing is, like, this is something I was telling somebody about that is in rehab and in and out of rehab and stuff. And I was telling him, I was like, listen, as long as you continue to just try to like go into rehab, get out of rehab, go into rehab, like as if that's the only problem, then you are going to continue in this cycle. You have to go deeper than that. Yes, it's a substance abuse problem, but it's deeper than that. There's something underlying, there's something mental. And if I would have let you all the times you try to drag me to a mental hospital, I probably would have been fine. But I used to fight my mom because I was like, I'm not going to a mental hospital. Like, you got me messed up. Like, I'm talking about we fought. Like, she tried to actually drag me. I was not going. She even called the place and was like, what can I do? And they're like, what they say that you could force
the
5150.
The 5150, but it was like a whole thing and they weren't going to do it. And I was just like, well, there's no point then. So it was like, yeah, I definitely tried. And you hated me for that so bad.
Because I thought that, like,
I'm like, she's losing her mind. I'm like, I don't know this person, but this is not my daughter.
And that was at 14. So
no, that's not even the time I
Oh, dang. When?
No, I'm talking about when you lived in Waverly Park.
Dang, I didn't even think I was that bad then. But all of this started, and this is like even before the drugs, and this is why I say underlying issues, because when I was 14 and 15, if I would have addressed the problems that I'm dealing with mentally now, I probably wouldn't have chose drugs. And I really do mean that. And I'm not saying that for everybody, you know, like, oh,
I would love if we could get to like the bottom and figure out what it was. Like, is it daddy issues? Is it mental health issues? Which obviously,
but that's the thing. It's a combined.
I get blamed a lot, but honestly, I think it's him.
She said, but I get blamed a lot, but it's not me.
But honestly,
I think it's a mixture. I don't think that, and I think that's why they haven't gotten to like the actual like thing, the source of addiction and why it happens, because it's not just one thing. It is a buildup, I believe, of traumatic experiences that kind of alter your way of decision making, your impulsiveness, your and then that what's that like feeling that you get when you get excited, when like adrenaline rush, dopamine, yeah. So like, and it alters that type of stuff, those receptors in your brain, I feel like. And this is just my own take on it. And then as soon as you try a drug, it's easy to try another, and then, you know, and then because of that, your receptors, the way that they are, because of traumatic experiences and stuff, now you are like set up for failure. Like, you're set up to be addicted to this drug. But just know, anybody can get addicted. I don't care who you are. If you try, and I asked my brother this one time, I was like, what if I just like drugs? Like, why can't I just like drugs? I genuinely like being high. And that may be true and all, but I don't like the stuff that comes with being high all the time. I don't like, and then there's long-term consequences. And mentally, I didn't realize how much it messed me up until like I look back, even on my TikTok and stuff, and I look back at like my first video versus now. I talk better. I walk better. I think smoother. Like and it's very like, you can see that in a person. So there's just, and then my brother said, he's like, I think that's I don't think you're crazy for that. He's like, I think people are supposed to like drugs. That's literally what drugs are. You're supposed to like them. And I was like, dang.
That sounds like something he would say.
Yeah, I was like, dang, okay, because it made so much sense. Like, he said it in a way that didn't make me feel crazy, but also was just so true. He's like, and that's why I wouldn't or don't try them, because I know I would like them too much. And when he said that, something just clicked. Like, I was like, wow. So it's not me. It's the drug. It's not me.
And low-key, like, maybe, I mean, I think that my anxiety honestly did keep me away from trying a lot of things, because I was exposed to a lot. But I always said no, but who's to say if I would have just done it once? Yeah. And maybe I knew that. Maybe I felt that. I don't know. But I just could never. Because we used to make fun of drug addicts when we were younger. So I was like, ew. Like, I'm not about to be a crackhead tweaking and shit. Like, we used to, man, like.
No, yeah, even my dad used to tell me, he's like, yeah, we don't do that stuff. He was like, okay, I probably can't say what.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. Like,
we might give it away, but we don't do that stuff. So what are you doing? Like, he's like, I have crackheads fixing my car for me. We don't do that stuff though. I'm like, oh. He's like, two different worlds, and I'm like, all right, I get what you're saying. Like, it's crazy.
But then I think of that, and I'm like, I used to always tell him, I'm like, yo, you all this shit's gonna come back to you. And now I'm like, look, you're the very people that you, whatever, and now look at your kid.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, I feel like, I don't know, maybe that's me and whatever, but I feel like his karma came back through you guys.
You know what? And I just thought about it, like, when people ask me, they're like, why did you do drugs? Like, why choose drugs? And I'm like, honestly, if you were to try a drug, you would go down the same path. Like, I guess maybe not for everybody, but yeah, like, if you try it, you will like it, and then you will become addicted to it, and then the consequences.
Just don't try it.
Just don't. But like, I think the consequences just end up being the same for everybody. Do you know, almost every single mom that I met in my addiction had this same very, very similar story with their kids. And their reason for continuing use and not not just stopping and not getting their life together is because they didn't have any family to go back to, because nobody trusts them anymore. They already cut them off, whatever. 2, they don't have any relationship with their kids, or whatever, or the kids got fostered out, or like just reasons like that, and it was so pointless to them. And that's the thing, is like, I think it's easier said than done, but like, I never thought that I would be able to have Elena by myself, period. I never thought that, especially like how you would answer questions, like when I would ask and you'd be like, oh, I don't know. We'll just, we'll save that for later. Like, you just didn't know how to answer it. So to me, I was like, she just doesn't want to tell me no. She doesn't want to tell me that's never going to happen. So
no, but I didn't want to tell you yes, because if I know you, I know I've known you since you was just living born.
And I would have threw it in your face. I know.
You're gonna run with it, and you're like, "Well, you can't get it." So I'm just like, I try to give as politically correct, like in the middle answers as possible, so you can't ever throw anything back in my face.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like, I never would have thought that I would be able to do the things with them again, or have them around, or I get to holidays, birthdays. It's just, and then I'm working, so I'm able to spend my money to them, and like wrap presents and be there for them to, I mean, like, I just, things that literally I never thought would happen again. For one, I really thought I would never see Yesenia again. Like, and if it weren't for you doing the visitations, then like, who knows where that would be right now. But like, that's why I hold so much hope, because so much has happened that I would have never thought that, like, I can only imagine 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, me and Yesenia's dad could be doing half and half type of thing. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, and I'm not gonna keep risking to miss out on that. What it can be, what it will be. So,
right.
Yeah. So, okay. What do you think are like some misconceptions about addiction or recovery, I guess, specifically?
I think that a lot of people think that people in recovery are the same people that were in addiction. And it hurts my heart to see that how people talk about and treat people in recovery as if they're still in active addiction, and they look at them differently or less than, and I don't like that.
Yeah. So, like, okay. I'm trying to figure out how to say what I was saying. Okay, well, we'll just come back to it. Okay, so how do you think this experience? Okay, I'll say it first, but how do you think this experience has changed like our relationship as mother and daughter? So like, I think that we have a kind of fresh start of a foundation to build off of, if that makes sense. Um, which I think has made us closer. I think that we've been through something that not a lot of people can relate to individually, and like both of our perceptions or perspectives of, me being in my addiction and stuff. So like, I just feel like we just have a strong bond because of it, if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
and not because of the addiction itself, okay? Because of the aftermath is what I mean. Like, the growth.
No, because of the work that we've both put in individually and collectively to recover, I think is where the bond comes in. And like, it means a great deal to me because I feel like as much as you're working to gain my trust back, I have had to, in a way, gain your trust back because I feel like I did, not handle it well in the beginning. And also, I mean, just someone in addiction, you look at everybody like they're out to get you. So he was looking at me that way too. So I know it used to hurt my feelings. Like, you really had some wild ideas while you were in addiction. And so it hurt my feelings to think or to know or to hear the things that you thought was going on, or that like let me fix my words, my ulterior motives or whatever. So yeah, having to go through that and earn each other's trust back and really show up. I don't know. Like, I think our relationship is better because of the work that we've put in. It is better. Like, I know there was a time where we both did not think we would ever have each other back. And not only did we get each other back, but we got like this new, like, fancy version. You know what I mean? Like a better version. Like,
that's what I meant about like a clean slate type of thing. Like, we are just both two different people, period. I think that you also had to recover, even though it wasn't your addiction, but you had to recover from the like investment in loving an addict.
Yeah. And yeah.
So,
and I think that's important. I don't know that a lot of families take that initiative to actually recover themselves. All the emphasis is put on the person in an addiction and to get them getting help and then, getting into recovery. But okay, what about the family? The family is traumatized. The family needs their own therapy, recovery, whatever. Yeah.
That's a big thing that people struggled in. Like, when I was going to groups and stuff, like, they would just, when like I'm putting in all the work and I'm going to all my stuff and all my classes and I've been sober for so and so days, and none of my family will talk to me, and it made me really sad because.
And the family makes I don't want to say the addict, but the person struggling with addiction, they make them feel like it's their fault. Like, they're supposed to work harder, but really the family has to put in work too if they really care. But
they also I don't think they have enough like guidance for that. Like, you took the work to attend some classes and stuff, but it also was a big part for you to be able to like just understand different like aspects of addiction itself, and like, who I am and what was going to come out of recovery, relapses, stuff like that. Like, there's just so much that comes with it that like nobody could have prepared you for going to classes or whatever. So, but I don't think people that are loving someone in addiction are guided correctly through that same journey, when they should kind of be on that same path together, if that makes sense. Like, because they're both recovering from trauma. Yeah. From the whole situation. It's a very traumatic situation. Like, and I haven't even seen it from the other side, but I just know I just know how me now today looking back. And I can only imagine what you felt staring at me like that. Being able to look into my eyes like that, or not get anything from me, or get the me that you know or knew from me when you're looking right at me, you know?
Yeah.
So I can only imagine, but yeah. So do you have any advice for somebody loving an addict and like how to keep hope?
Advice for somebody loving an addict is just so something that kind of helped me is like I'm really good at playing tricks with my own brain to like get me to think things. So like I had to trick my brain into kind of making me think, okay, like you're a baby. You're a baby. So like we have great babies don't know shit about shit, right? They don't know how to feed themselves, they don't know how to bathe themselves, they don't know how to do like basic functions. When they try to learn, they make they mess up. And for me, like I framed your addiction as like an infancy, and even as you came into recovery, it was like you're gonna, you know, trip as you learn how to walk. Like it's gonna take time for you to get back to what you were. And I kind of viewed it as infancy. So the same way that you wouldn't like berate a toddler or hopefully for spilling a glass of milk, or you wouldn't whoop them for falling down when they're trying to learn how to walk. Like, you have to just really love the addict with the grace that you would give a child, honestly. And like I would have to go deeper into it, but that analogy alone, if you can like figure out what that means to you and go from there, I think it'll make a world of difference.
Okay.
Because I could not look at you. That's what I struggled with. When I went to the NA meeting and they said, it's a disease, it's not them. Like, I understand why they do that. Because that helps me disassociate you from the addiction. Because like, when you would say, this is me, and I was like, well, I don't like you then. Like, because I was over here thinking it was the addiction, it was the disease, but you're telling me it's you, so I guess forget you then.
Yeah, and that was like, I just scared her when I said it. That was like me trying to express what I really wanted to say and couldn't. So like again, I said it earlier, like it really is still me, like deep down. Though, you know, like it's me, but the outside, the shell, that's not me at all. Like the way I talk, how rude I was, how quick I was to snap. I was so quick to snap on anybody. I was super argumentative. Even anybody like that I was doing drugs with, like they could tell you, I will argue with you, like, and for no reason, and no, I'm wrong. So
and
like,
you have to fight. I was like, when you learn how to fight, girl, you always get a fight.
Yeah. So like, just a whole different me. Like today, like I don't even know. I can't even imagine myself like right now today really getting hyped up like that, because I just feel I feel so at peace in a way that's like, if I feel like I'm getting to that point, it's like I just want to contain my peace, so walk away from the situation, or you know, I have control over my environment. For a long time, I felt like I didn't. I felt like I was stuck where I was at in my addiction, and stuck around those people, and stuck in the trap house and all that. And like, I'm not. I can control my environment. If I'm uncomfortable, I can leave. If I'm getting anxiety, I can take a break and take a breather. If I'm getting worked up, I can go and calm myself down. Like, I have control over that. And I kind of stand on that now. So yeah, but and some advice for people that are in addiction right now, like, all I can say is there is so much more than what you can just see. Like for a minute, I was just seeing what was in front of me, and like just could not picture my future, couldn't see anything more than what I was already in. I was very comfortable in the uncomfortable. Like I was just okay with where I was at, because it didn't take any work and it wasn't too much change, and I didn't have to deal with reality. And that was the best part about it. But the long term, when you put in the work and you take the classes and you do the rehab, or you and focus on your mental health, like that would be one of the biggest things. Like just go and talk to somebody, because professional will be able to take what you're telling them and how you're feeling and put a name to it, which will make you feel a little less crazy and a little less responsible for how you're feeling. Like all the pressure doesn't have to be on you. You know, you're not crazy. It's not just you. It's something that can be helped. Like you can get help for it. You just have to ask for it. And for a long time I was avoiding it. So that would be my advice. I think we did really good on this episode. Baby was crying a little bit, but I think we did really good. So we're going to do this every week for Perspective Unplugged. I think today went great. And just stay tuned. Tune in. Bye, guys.
Bye.